Thank you for your patience today. I was listening into the call and it was very interesting. And yes, a lot of doom and gloom, as Isabel said. However, one thing I wanted to sort of touch on a little bit, which you touched on a little bit in the session, was this idea of, it seems in Congress at the moment, there's a sort of, the one thing they do all agree on is that China is a threat. But I wondered with Biden presidency whether there would be any moves for a reset and what that reset might entail.
Well, I think there is actually a bit of serious opposition building to the onslaught on China among particularly the corporate community. This wasn't initiated by American business, although it began in the name of American business. It was initiated by populists and nationalists, by national security people, and it's basically hurting American business considerably. It could cost us a major market for our semiconductors, which we've been a dominant force in the world. And people forget that in addition to the trade that takes place, American companies in China produce and sell about $300 billion worth of goods which are Chinese made, American design. So there is a lot of misgiving in the American corporate community and in Wall Street about what's happening. And I think that may have an impact if the Biden administration gives it an opening.
Right. Yeah. And I think if we take, given we have limited time, I think I would be quite interested to know from your part of the world, when you were a former ambassador in Saudi Arabia, I mean, one thing that perhaps Trump would be proud of is the recent normalization of ties between the UAE and Israel. And what I wondered from that was, I mean, do you think the normalization of ties could help reduce tensions in the Middle East, or in fact could add to them in the future?
Well, I think it's very good for Israel. I'm not sure what it does for the United States, frankly. And it probably does increase tensions because it brings Israel, the UAE, and Bahrain, of course, and potentially Saudi Arabia into a closer relationship in opposition to Iran. It doesn't provide a basis for composing differences in the Gulf between the Arab states and Iran, rather equals them in Israeli opposition to Iran. So I think it may actually complicate rather than help.
Do you think the Emiratis have mistaken themselves? They made a bad move, really?
Oh, well, from their point of view, I think they had their own objectives, which were to gain additional American support in a time when there has been doubt about the longevity of the American presence and willingness to act. There was a specific item involved, which is the F-35, a very shiny piece of military equipment that some in the UAE covet. So they had their own reasons, and I won't gainsay those.
Thank you very much for taking the time.